Have you ever filled out a USCIS form and wondered, what if I accidentally write something wrong? What if a small, innocent mistake ends up making me look like a fraud in the eyes of immigration officers? Well, you're not alone. Thousands of honest immigrants across the United States have faced serious problems, even delays, denials, or fraud investigations, all because of simple errors they never meant to make. In this video, we're going to talk about 4 innocent USCIS mistakes that can instantly raise red flags in your immigration file. And here's the thing, these aren't major crimes or lies. They're tiny oversights that can happen to anyone. A wrong date, a missing signature, even using the wrong version of a form. But to USCIS, those little things can look suspicious. And once that fraud flag is raised, clearing your name can become a long and painful process. Whether you're applying for a green card, renewing your work permit, or adjusting your status, you need to understand how USCIS actually reviews your paperwork, because sometimes the system assumes the worst before it asks questions. We'll break down each mistake, explain how it triggers fraud alerts, and, most importantly, show you exactly how to avoid them so your American dream doesn't get derailed by a misunderstanding. If you've ever felt nervous while sending in your immigration forms, or if you've heard horror stories of people being accused of fraud when they did nothing wrong, stay with me. You deserve to know the truth, and you deserve peace of mind. So grab a notebook, because by the end of this video, you'll know how to protect yourself from the 4 biggest USCIS mistakes that could harm your case. And if you find this information helpful, don't forget to like this video. It tells YouTube that this content matters and helps more immigrants like you stay informed and safe. Let's get started, and make sure your American journey stays on track. All right, let's dive right in, because understanding how USCIS works behind the scenes can truly make or break your immigration journey. Now, before we talk about each of the 4 mistakes that can get you flagged for fraud, I want to make one thing very clear. USCIS isn't out to get you, but the system is built on rules, forms, and cross-checks that don't always understand context. They look for patterns, and sometimes a tiny inconsistency can set off alarm bells. What might look like a simple typo to you can appear as dishonesty to an immigration officer reviewing thousands of cases. And that's why being careful and informed is so important. So let's talk about the first innocent mistake that causes trouble: inconsistent information. This one catches more people than you'd ever imagine. You might have filled out your green card application years ago, and now you're renewing or filing a new petition. Maybe you moved, maybe your situation changed, or maybe you just don't remember the exact date you entered the US. But when USCIS compares your new form with your old one, and the details don't match, even something small like a different date of entry or a misspelled employer name, that inconsistency can look suspicious. Here's the truth. USCIS keeps digital and physical copies of almost everything you've ever submitted, and they use those past forms to verify your story. If something doesn't line up, it can appear like you're hiding something, even when you're not. I've heard of cases where people accidentally switched 2 digits in their arrival date, and suddenly, the system flagged them for possible misrepresentation. Imagine that, one small number, and suddenly you're under scrutiny. So the key here is double-checking every detail. Always review your old applications before submitting new ones. You might think, oh, they won't check that far back. Trust me, they will. Now, the second innocent mistake is signing or submitting incorrect forms. This one sounds so simple, right? But it happens constantly. USCIS updates their forms often, sometimes even twice a year, and they require applicants to use the most recent version. Let's say you downloaded a form from a third-party website, or you had a copy saved on your computer from a year ago. You fill it out, send it in, and think you're good to go. But to USCIS, using an outdated form means you didn't follow instructions. And if you're missing a page, a barcode, or even a new signature requirement, your form might be rejected or delayed. And sometimes, that can trigger a fraud review. Why? Because sending an old or incomplete form can look like you're trying to skip questions or avoid new disclosure requirements. Think of it this way. USCIS assumes that if you're serious about your immigration process, you'll stay up to date with their current procedures. So always go directly to the official USCIS website before downloading or printing anything. Check the edition date at the bottom of the form and make sure it matches the one listed online. And yes, it might sound like a small thing, but it's a small thing that could save you from months of stress. Now, let's talk about the third innocent mistake: forgetting to disclose past issues. This one can be painful because a lot of immigrants are genuinely afraid to admit mistakes from their past. Maybe a missed court date, a visa overstay, or even something as minor as a traffic citation. Sometimes people leave those details out not because they're lying, but because they're afraid it will hurt their application. But here's the hard truth: what hurts you more is not mentioning it. When USCIS finds out, and they almost always do, it looks like you were hiding information. Imagine an officer going through your file and noticing that your past visa records don't match what you wrote. Maybe you overstayed a few months, but you didn't think it was a big deal. To them, that looks like intentional deception. The same goes for prior marriages, prior applications, or old addresses that weren't listed. USCIS systems are interconnected with other government databases, DHS, CBP, ICE, even state DMVs. So when you try to skip a detail, it's not hidden. It's just a matter of time before it surfaces. And when it does, it can trigger that dreaded fraud flag. If you're ever unsure about whether to mention something, here's a good rule of thumb: it's better to explain than to hide. You can always add a note or an attachment clarifying what happened. Officers appreciate honesty more than perfection. In fact, being transparent often works in your favor because it shows you have nothing to hide. Remember, they deal with fraud every day, so when they see someone being upfront about a mistake, it builds trust. And that brings us to the fourth mistake, and probably the most surprising one: getting help from the wrong person. This one is heartbreaking because it happens out of trust. Many immigrants turn to friends, family members, or notarios who claim they can help with USCIS paperwork. Some mean well, but they aren't trained or licensed to give immigration advice. Others take advantage of people's fear and lack of English skills. They might fill out your forms incorrectly, exaggerate your information, or even sign your name without permission. When USCIS catches inconsistencies or false claims in your file, it doesn't matter who made the mistake, the blame falls on you. I've seen people lose years of progress because of bad advice or fake promises. If someone says, "Don't worry, I'll handle everything for you," and they're not a registered attorney or accredited representative, that's a red flag. You have every right to ask to see their credentials. Always check if they're listed in the official Department of Justice directory of accredited representatives. And if you can't afford a lawyer, there are free legal aid services available through nonprofit organizations. Never risk your future on someone who just says they know the system. Because when USCIS reviews your file, your name is the one on the paperwork, not theirs. Now, after hearing all this, you might be feeling a bit anxious, and that's okay. It's completely normal to feel that way, especially if you've already submitted applications and are now wondering if you made one of these mistakes. But here's the good news: most of these problems are preventable. USCIS isn't trying to trap you. They just want consistency, honesty, and proper documentation. The more you understand how they think, the more confidently you can handle your case. One of the smartest things you can do is keep a personal immigration file. Every form, every receipt notice, every email, keep it all organized in one folder. When you apply again, you can reference those details to make sure everything matches. Small steps like that build your credibility. Officers notice when an applicant's paperwork is clean, organized, and consistent. It shows care, and that goes a long way. Another thing that helps is taking your time. Rushing leads to errors. Double check every date, every box, every signature. If something doesn't make sense, research it or ask for clarification before submitting. You'd be surprised how many denials come from things as small as leaving a field blank or forgetting a signature. And please, don't let fear keep you from being honest. So many immigrants think, if I tell the truth about this, they'll deny me. But what USCIS really wants to see is integrity. They know that no one's perfect. They understand that people make mistakes. What matters most is that you're truthful and consistent. Think of this entire process as a conversation with the US government. You're telling your story, and your paperwork is your voice. If your story changes, it needs to make sense. If something doesn't line up, they'll ask why. And that's okay. You just need to have the documentation to back it up. At the end of the day, every immigrant has a story filled with struggle, sacrifice, and dreams. The system might not always understand your journey, but you can control how clearly you tell it. By avoiding these innocent mistakes, you're not just protecting your immigration status, you're protecting your peace of mind. You're showing that you belong here, that you're following the rules, and that your American dream is built on honesty and persistence. So, if you've learned something today, if this video helped you see your immigration process in a new light, take a second right now and hit that like button. It helps YouTube show this video to more immigrants who need this information just as much as you do. And it lets me know that you want more content that makes immigration clearer, safer, and less stressful. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to build a better future. And understanding how to avoid these innocent USCIS mistakes is one big step in making sure nothing stands in your way. Stay strong, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll dive deeper into how you can protect your immigration record and move forward with confidence.